Hey guys, to help run the forums, host the website, and travel, we've introduced a universal service fee for in-depth coverage, including this video. The goal is to be transparent and unbiased. This is not an endorsement. It's a privilege to serve you. Let's get into it.
Hey guys, what's going on? So I am here checking out the electric cruiser bike. Here it is, it's the one. So this is actually from the guys over here in Pennsylvania. That's where I am now. You can actually see across the way there's the Delaware River, and there's New Jersey on the other side. So I'm here in Pennsylvania checking out a bunch of electric bikes and trikes from the guys over here at Electric Bike Technologies. And this is one of their newest ventures, is ElectricBikeStore.com, and this is the electric cruiser bike. That's the one. It comes in a really pretty color, but let's just go ahead and jump straight into the bike and what it does. Okay, so the electric cruiser bike, it really makes no bones about it. This is what it's for. It is a nice and simple electric cruiser, and you can see it totally says that right on the side. Got some stylized, not so cursive writing for the word cruiser right on the frame there from the guys over at Electric Bike Tech. And yeah, it makes for a pretty color too. This is kind of like I guess I would describe it as like a metallic raspberry for this one. Has a nice sheen to it, so it makes for a pretty striking look to it. So it does have a lot of really cool features inside of it, particularly the electric system. I really like that part a lot in most electric bikes, but this one actually feels pretty smooth. But let's go ahead and jump into the mechanical specifications, and let's start up on the controls. So this bike is meant for like beach cruising, just something nice to carry around the neighborhood, something nice and simple, very approachable. And that's kind of what you get with the frame, is like the frame has a really low step through, so the standover height is relatively small. So you can totally get your foot up and over there and kind of get into the bike rather than getting onto the bike, which is nice. And the handlebars sweep back a fair amount, so they kind of meet you. So you sit down, of course, on the seat, and instead of having to reach forward and lean with all of your body weight forward, the handlebars kind of come back so that it can ease up on how much you have to stretch over. You don't have to put your weight forward or put any tension or weight on your wrists, which is nice. The grips are pretty comfy. They have like this nice stitching on the faux leather with a nice padding as well for your palm, which is a really nice addition. So something like that will really ease up if you got some arthritis, or if you just want to ride the bike for a long time without feeling a long-term fatigue on little tiny bones in your hands. So that's a really good comfort feature. They also have a grip shift here. So this is actually your indexer for changing gears. Right now it's in speed 3, and you can rotate that to go to 4, or back the other way if you want to go to 2. So that's how you change gears on this. It does have a regular set of mechanical gears in the back, but it really cleans up the look, makes it look nice and pretty, the way that it's all integrated, especially with the grip. So this grip is actually slightly shorter to accommodate the extra grip space for the shifter, which is pretty cool. When you compare that size to the grip over here, this one is extended longer because it doesn't have the presence of it. So it really fits in pretty well. You do have some mechanical disc brakes on the bike. These are from Zoom, and it's a nice 4-finger lever. You can totally get all 4 fingers on there for a nice grip. It does have like a texturized rubber on the edge so that you don't slip while you're gripping for the brakes, and a built-in bell. They kind of hide it pretty well in here. This little guy is the bell. And it's kind of nice the way that they tuck it in. It's not taking up more space up on the handlebars. So you could totally get like a water bottle holder or a bag or a basket up on the handlebars, because you have a lot of space to work with there. All right, so you do have an adjustable quill stem here. So it is adjustable in the sense that you can put a little 5mm tool in there and then kind of open that up. And then you can change the angle of this portion right here, so it'll actually rotate on that axis. So you can actually bring the handlebars up even more and make the handlebars meet you if you had a rider who was especially short, or if you just want to relax after a longer ride. You can twist that out with a simple tool. So that comes into the caged bearings that you have on either side of the head tube here, coming down into the solid fork. So you don't have a suspension here, but then again, the rider weight is going to be recessed back on the bike. So having a suspension isn't nearly as necessary when you don't have a whole lot of weight up on the front of the bike. So that's fine. You do have 15mm bolts on the bottom of the fork here, keeping the wheel in line, which is good. And this is a double-walled rim holding on the silver spokes here that are 13 gauge. This is actually a pretty cool tire. You know, I kind of glossed over the rest of this because I want to jump into the tire. So this is a Kenda tire with the K-shield, so it does have some puncture resistance that's built into the tread, so you don't have to worry as much about getting a flat tire. But one of my favorite features about it, it has this reflective stripe all throughout the sidewall on both sides of the tire, both front and back as well. And that's really good. If you didn't know, a large portion of the accidents that happen to bicycles are at nighttime, and they are coming from the side. So the reason why is because a lot of bikes have no reflection coming from the side. You know, you might have a reflector up front or something on the pedals, but on the side, a lot of times there's no presence. But on this bike, there totally is on both the front and the back, which is really nice. I like that feature a lot. One of my favorites. As I mentioned before, you do have a mechanical disc brake, and this is a Zoom caliper set right here on the 180 millimeter rotor up on the front as well as on the back. So what that means in usable terms is that these are some good disc brakes that will pinch onto the rotor here to stop the bike. Disc brakes are really nice because well, they just work better than the V brakes, kind of like the cantilever brakes that you might be used to. With the V brakes, they work, but with an electric bike, generally they weigh more because they have the battery, they have the motor, they have extra metal that's kind of keeping that stuff together. And also in a lot of cases, myself included, I weigh a lot more than I did when I was 10 years old riding a small bike with V brakes. So these upgraded brakes for discs, I believe, are quite necessary for electric bikes, and it's really good to see it on here. You know, I'm very happy. I like mechanical disc brakes personally over hydraulics because they're easier to fix. They work pretty well. So let's go ahead and jump into the other parts of the mechanical system. So continuing on with the mechanical system, you do have a regular bicycle. You know, aside from the battery and the motor, if that stuff disappeared or if it turned off, this still operates as a bicycle just like normal. Up on the front, you have a 44 tooth count for the chain ring. So there's 44 little teeth in here that grab onto the chain to pedal it forward. And this works, again, whether the battery's on or off, any kind of time, still works like a bicycle. You do have a bash guard on one side that's kind of going to protect the teeth from getting hit up too much, but also kind of keep your pants out of it a tiny bit. You probably still want to get a pant clip if you're going to use this for commuting, but if you're like me, you would probably use this bike with shorts, cruising around the neighborhood, maybe a 4th of July parade or something like that. So it is a 7-speed set of gears in the back. So I kind of mentioned the shifter up on the handlebars there, and that comes back into the Shimano tourney derailleur in the back. So that's going into these 7 gears right here, which is 14 teeth on the small end and 34 teeth on the high end. So that gives you a not too big of a range for pedaling. You know, this bike is not really meant for Tour de France or off-road, so there's not a whole lot of gearing that's necessary for a bike that's going to be doing some pretty easygoing cruising. And they do that to simplify the bike, to make it really streamlined for its purpose, and this purpose is quite casual, and as a result you have a set of gears that is pretty casual. But it is using a cassette system, which is nice. Every now and again you see a freewheel on something like this, but I like the cassette. It's going to work good. So on the back of the bike, you more or less have a mirrored set from the front for the wheel and the brake. As well, you have the rotation counter on the back wheel here. That's for the electric system. But let's talk a little bit about the utility and the rack here. So the fenders are one thing I did kind of forget to talk about in the front of the bike. But these are nice color matched fenders. They're really pretty. They make the bike come together as a whole unit quite well. And it's a pretty cool feature because I like metal fenders personally, and that's what these are. These are braced on not only here on this bracket, but also connected up on the top and also on the bottom of the frame there. And it does have internal wiring on the upside of the fender to accommodate for the light that's in the back of the bike right here. All right, so let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the rack. So the rack, of course, is accommodating the battery that slips into position here, but it also has provisions for a pannier rack. There's a fairly uniform tube here that can handle lots of different panniers that hook onto position right there. Or you can even get a double-sided panniers if you'd like. You can mount something on the top if you have like a bungee strap, something like that, maybe a a case of drinks, or if you wanted to carry a dog, a small dog in the back there. The rack is bolted onto the frame, which I personally like because you can kind of tighten up every now and again. But also if you have something going on with the rack, if you get a little bit too overzealous and put something heavier on there, break the rack, you can totally fix it and put it back together. That's a really nice thing about the guys here at Electric Bike Technologies, is that they're here in Pennsylvania and they can answer your questions, they can help you fix something if you need to, spare parts. It's all done here in the USA. Isn't that right?
Yeah, absolutely. We're really glad to be able to help you out. And if you have any questions, give us a call up, and check out our other bikes and trikes at ElectricBikeStore.com, ElectricTrike.com.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. They got quite a few different things going on here. So as far as other people within the community here, these guys really know their stuff. They know more than me, if you can believe it. Might be hard to believe, but yeah, I'm just kidding. They know a ton. I'm really happy to be here. I'm learning a lot about electric bikes and trikes here. But anyways, I'm getting aside for myself. Let's jump back into the electric cruiser. So talking about the battery rack, the rack with the battery on it, the motor is in the middle of the bike, and that actually balances out the weight a little bit more, so you could get some additional weight back here, and especially for easygoing cruising, it doesn't mess up things too much. You can still keep going. If you had the battery weight and the motor weight and the rider weight and say a case of drinks or something, that'd be pretty tough. You know, you'd have to steer a little bit gingerly as you're going forward throughout the streets. But this one has the balance kind of taken care of for that kind of consideration. Certainly not something I'd take off-road, and you know, you can try it if you want to, but at least get new tires. So let's go ahead and jump into the electric system, because we've talked a lot about the mechanical side. But one last thing is actually the saddle and the seat post. So this is the diameter of this seat post is 30.4, which is a little peculiar, but you could switch out this solid seat post for a suspension seat post if you wanted to kind of add a little bit more cushion. However, the saddle itself has some really tall springs in here, so that kind of covers you a little bit. The springs in the seat add a fair amount of cushion, and the saddle itself is nice and soft, and it has this vinyl cover over it with some good gel, a nice wide, about 8-inch wide footprint on here with a nice nose. So this saddle is not a bad saddle at all. However, the seat post is a little stiff, so you know, try it out after you get the bike. Try it out, see if you like it. If you want it a little softer, you can customize it, but don't discount this saddle because it's a pretty good one. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump into the electric system. We'll kind of start in the back with the battery. So the battery does lock into position here on the back of the bike, which is good because it's not going to grow legs and walk away. It does have an individual unique key that fits into this keyhole right here. Do we have the key with us?
Yes, we do.
Okay, cool. So Alec is going to go ahead and pull off the battery, and you'll see it kind of slide out of position there.
So if you put the key in and turn the key a little bit, take the key back out, you can slide the battery right out. And if you want to take it indoors for charging or something like that, you can bring it in with you.
Oh, sweet. So yeah, you can totally take that inside because it can even fit in a backpack, or I suppose a pannier bag. And there's the charge port right there if you want to charge this guy up. And then it slides back into position exactly the same way. It's got the railing here, so you can't really goof it up. Put it right back in. And in it goes, locked in. Bam, ready to rock. And of course the key kind of pulls right out of there after it's in position. These are, again, unique. And the battery has a light on the back. And this is a rather peculiarity because there is a light back here. It's not only a reflector, but it is a light that is powered. It's a little bit bright right now outside, so you probably won't see a whole lot there, but maybe it'll come up. So there's these LEDs on the side. We'll go ahead and peel off that little screen. This runs on AA batteries, which is strange. So if you take apart this light, you can replace the AA batteries that fit into here. And this light right here is mounted, or is mounted on the fender. This is wired in, so the wire goes underneath the fender out here and then up to the battery pack for the bicycle. Okay, Alec just turned it on there. You can turn it on with the display. So that actually has a little light on there on the fender, and this light is powered by batteries. So you do get two lights, which is pretty cool. I like it. I want to look like a Christmas tree when I'm biking at night, so this is a really cool addition. But the strange thing is that this one is powered by spare batteries. This one is powered by the main battery, and they have the battery, the spare batteries mounted onto a battery case. So that's a rather peculiar choice there. But nonetheless, you know, they work. They work fine. I'd much rather have two lights that have a different set of of energy source instead of just one light. So, you know, I like it that I like having the two lights nonetheless. So I'm grateful for that. All right, so we'll go ahead and jump into talking about the display. It's quite bright, so let's go ahead and push it into the shade a little bit. We'll kind of show you the display and how it works. So it won't show up on camera, but you can see it with your eyes. So on the display here, it has a remote attachment that will power on and off with the power button. Just press and hold that little power button right there and the display will turn on, and it'll show you a few things from the get-go. Shows you your speed right here on this kind of speedometer looking guy, as well as your battery level. Right now it's showing at 100%. Your pedal assist level is right in the middle there on the bottom, and using the remote attachment you can press that up or down to change the level of pedal assist here in the center, and that gives you power as you pedal. So in level 1 it gives you a little bit of power as you pedal. Level 2 it gives you a little bit more and more and more until you reach level 5. Also on this display, on the bottom left and right, you have a little variable spot that will show you through your total odometer, trip set, and it cycles through by pressing the little letter I on the remote attachment. That will cycle through things like max speed, average speed, total odometer, things like that. The display also has a USB port on the side here if you wanted to charge a phone or some other accessory. And again, you have tons of space up here. If you wanted to mount a phone right there, you can mount it, charge it, boom. And that goes off of the main battery pack all the way down in the back. So no spare batteries for that one. That's good. You'll notice this little tiny dot right here. This little tiny dot is actually a sensor for the lights. So the lights actually have an automatic setting that will come on if it gets too dark. Of course, right now they're not going to because we're in broad daylight. But if you go through a tunnel or if things start to get dim, this will actually allow the lights to turn on automatically. So continuing on with the display functions, there is a light switch, which is kind of an override. If you press that little button on the remote attachment, the display will show that the lights are on with this little guy right there, and of course the lights will go on front and the one on the back fender. Let's go ahead and turn that off so it brightens it up a little bit. Also on the controls, you do have a throttle, so this will expressly engage the motor. I think you can see it from this angle if we kind of turn it, and then I'll press this little thumb throttle down, and you can see the wheel starts to move. So this is variable. If you press down on it a tiny bit, then it will move the motor a tiny bit. If you go all the way, then boy, you go all the way. And when you're on the bike, it feels a whole lot better. So yeah, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the motor. We can go back out into the sunlight. Let's go ahead and move the bike. That's actually a point to talk about. So this bike does have a center mounted kickstand, and the kickstand works just fine. It's nice and strong. You know, I like it. It has a little bit of a telescoping part here if you wanted to change the angle of it. However, when you're maneuvering the bike in and out of the garage, if you just press the bike backwards with the kickstand down, you'll notice the pedal starts to move, and the pedal will knock into the kickstand there, and then it won't allow the bike to be rolled backwards anymore until you resolve that. And so the bike kind of feels stuck. You know, it's not broken by a long shot. All you got to do is just push the bike forward a little bit, and the kickstand either can get out of the way itself, or you can kind of kick around the pedals yourself. You know, you kind of lift up the bike, move the pedal, get the kickstand out of the way, and then you're good to go. So that can happen. It's not really a big deal, and it kind of has a few stars have to align in order for that to be kind of a thing. But nonetheless, it's you know, one of the choices that they made when putting this bike together. They could have mounted the kickstand in the back there. You'll see there's some little holes right underneath the brake mount. You could mount a kickstand there, and that would totally resolve it. You could totally push the bike backwards to your heart's content and never find that. But nonetheless, if that happens to you, don't be alarmed. It's a simple thing to fix. So let's go ahead and put the bike down, and we'll talk about the motor system. So this is a mid-drive motor. This is the Dapu MD250 is actually the name of this motor, but strangely enough, it's actually powerful enough to put out 350 watts continuous or more. But these guys have it set up for something different. Is that right?
Yeah, so this motor is capable of producing over 500 watts. So we call it a 500 to 750 watt motor. It runs with a 15 amp controller, so you'll peak out at about 720 watts with this guy.
Oh wow. So yeah, that's a fair amount. That's just Yeah, so this is a really good motor, about 750 watts of power at peak, which is quite a bit. So if you're going up a steep hill, or if you just have some load, so you're carrying something back to the party or something, this motor could totally do it. And I've had a chance to ride this on the cruiser bike, as well as some of the other ones from these guys at ElectricBikeStore.com or Electric Bike Technologies. So this is actually a really good choice for a cruiser bike, and let me tell you why. So with a lot of cruiser bikes, they have a cadence-based pedal assist for the electronic system, and those are really easy going. Once you get the crank moving, all you got to do is just rotate the pedals as a formality, which is, makes for pretty easygoing cruising style. However, with this one, it feels more like a bicycle. As you pedal, the torque sensor kind of kicks in, and it kicks in based on how much stress you're putting down on the pedals, and you can kind of adjust the sensitivity up on the display. So if you set it for something that feels right for you, then it feels more like a regular bicycle, more like what you're used to. So if you're looking for a bike that kind of gives you the same kind of 10-year-old legs that you remember, this one totally does it based on that kind of system. And I like this motor a lot. Like I said, I've had a chance to ride it out on a couple of bikes here in Pennsylvania, and it really does a good job. So why don't we just go ahead and jump on the bike and show you what it can do. So we're riding along the little boardwalk here on the Delaware River right behind me, or to the side of me. It's quite picturesque, I must say. Anyways, this bike is really good. It fits the purpose of just kind of like some low speed, lightweight sort of cruising. Let's see, I'm in pedal assist level 3. Let's go ahead and crank it up just a little bit. Ooh, there we go. All right, so that is one thing I didn't really mention too much, is that the bike is very simple. It's a regular bike that operates just like you're used to. With the torque-based pedal assist, the electric system is kind of waiting for you to put a little bit of tension onto the pedals. Not much, depending on how much you have the sensitivity cranked. So if you're riding along and the motor kind of gets up speed, let's go ahead and switch to a different gear. All right, so if the motor gets enough speed, then there's no tension on the pedals until you switch mechanical gears again. So if you want it to continuously power and go faster and faster and faster, just like a regular bike, you got to change the mechanical gears to go higher and higher and higher. But if you're doing something pretty easy going, something exactly like this, you can just leave it in one mechanical gear that is appropriate for the speed that you want to go. Just leave it there and then focus on your ride, focus on your surroundings, that kind of thing. So right now, let's see, I've got it in a fairly low gear and just pedaling along at about 8 miles an hour or so. I mean, this is great. You can kind of take a deep breath and absorb the surroundings a little bit. But then when you want to go faster, you can either increase the sensitivity of pedal assist by cranking up that number, or you can increase the actual tension on the set of gears by changing the mechanical gear. And that way the motor will see that you want more help when you crank up the tension level, and then it will propel you to that speed until your rotations are so fast that it doesn't measure anything quite that sensitive anymore. So it's pretty cool. There's kind of a little bit of adjustability, but all of this is pedal assist, which is my favorite feature of the bike. It's really smooth, it really kicks in nice. It doesn't give out too much power, because that is a thing sometimes, until you get to the throttle. So this bike is equipped with a throttle, which is pretty cool, because you can just kind of crank that guy and then boom, off you go. And the throttle has a pretty good curve to it as well. It's not super aggressive. Like earlier today, we were checking out a fat tire trike. It was electric mid-drive fat tire trike. That thing has a ton of power, and it really isn't shy. It throws it all at you. For this guy, it's a little more relaxed. It's a little more smooth. That's a pretty cool thing, that they've actually programmed it this way on purpose. They've made it specifically for being a cruiser, and I like that a lot. It's not just kind of tossed together. They actually had like the goal in mind when they made this bike, the user in mind. You should totally, yeah, this is so much fun. You're gonna love electric bikes. If you don't have one, I'm just gonna go off on a rant. If you don't have an electric bike, go shop around, find one that fits your needs, because they're great. They're really great. They're fun. All right, guys, so I got you pointed down at both the motor and the chain ring here. We've got the pedal assist cranked up all the way to level 5. Let's go ahead and ride around a little bit at full blast and see how it does.
into the straightaway here. Let's go ahead.
Good brakes, by the way. I just got a chance to test those out. We were going about 20 miles an hour on the straightaway before I had to slow down and dismount. But yeah, it picks up really well when you have it cranked up all the way to level 5. The sensitivity is pretty high, so you can just blast it out. All right, guys, thanks for checking out the electric cruiser bike with me. It's been a lot of fun. I actually like how smooth it is. So yeah, if you want to check out this electric bike along with some of the other ones that I'm testing here in Pennsylvania from the guys at Electric Bike Technologies, go to ElectricBikeReview.com. That's where you're going to see the full specifications, measurements, and write-up for this bike, like I said, along with the other ones. You can also compare that with other bikes from other brands, or you can go to the site to participate in the forums if you want to ask a question, participate in the community, kind of hang out, that sort of thing. So thanks for watching, guys. Ride safe.